keep it dismantled. So what's one of the biggest fears that you have that you've actually worked through that you're getting the greatest return on investment? And then what system do you have in place to keep it dismantled?
I was kind of having this conversation with Jeff, and one of the things, I was talking earlier about mastermind groups. One of the things that they've pushed me to do is constantly seeing the value in what I do and pushing myself as far as pricing, the thing that I'm driving up. And so that's the thing that, when I look at some of the things that I've done in the past, I'm like, man, I gave away the farm. I didn't really attach certain things to it. And now I'm beginning, as other people are pushing me and stretching me, beginning to recognize my worth and my value, and that I do have something to offer that is of value. And believing in that and fully embracing that it's been like a fear and a challenge. I was telling you the other night, I did a webinar and had people on the webinar, and at the end of the webinar, I was offering a $1,600 coaching, 8-week coaching thing. And I hadn't offered something like that high. And so literally I'm like, I'm in my home office doing a webinar. I'm not in where real people live, right here. That's what Dennis says. I need to get out with real people. But I'm getting on this webinar. I'm like, I have to psych myself up for this because it's just like, man, I don't know. Can I do this? Am I worth it? And we were having this discussion, me and him.
And by the way, it's worth twice that. Really, what he offers is really is amazing.
But the reason why I want to push myself too is because I also want to push myself not just for the money, but for what it makes of me to become that, right? What is it going to make of you? Because it elevates, it causes and pushes you to just more stuff comes out that you didn't realize that the potential that was in there.
And so what are you doing to kind of help push that forward in your life besides listening to Dennis?
Well, because I've got people in my life that'll tell me, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Don't do that again.
So he does have people that are speaking into his life and saying he needs to charge more for the work that he's doing, which is good. It's good. Anything there?
We're all doing the fear thing?
Yeah.
Great. Anybody watch Mad Men here? It's like my favorite show. Awesome, great. Love that show. Yeah, so it's on television. You have televisions here. Last week on Mad Men. Mad Men is a show about the '60s era, ad age, advertising executives. Anyway, one of the copywriters asked the main character, Don Draper. At some point, he brings up fear, and she goes, "What are you afraid of?" Because he's this super confident, clean-cut, debonair, handsome, persuasive guy, marketing guy. And he says, "I'm afraid that I have nobody, and that nothing I've done matters." And I remember hearing that, going, "Yeah, me too. That's what I fear." And so that's probably my biggest fear is as my own boss. This is a newer thing, and not really having a formal team. I have some contract people that I work with that are all elsewhere, so I don't really have any sort of, ongoing accountability. I feel alone, when I'm in my biggest state of fear. I feel alone, and I'm afraid that nothing that I'm doing is actually mattering. And really, the system that I have in place to suppress that or work through that is a mastermind group. It's a group of 12 guys that I meet with every week, and one of the rules is that you can't bring your bravado. You get 12 guys in a room together, they all sort of want to one-up each other sometimes. And so we're allowed to brag, so we share our successes with each other, but we also have to share our failures and the things that we're struggling with. And that group makes me feel not so alone, and it makes me feel like I don't have to know all these things that I'm learning in order to keep moving forward.
I think for me, it's fear of rejection is probably the biggest. It's the biggest fear in having a coach. For me, I've got to continue to it's just hard for me to kind of continue to put my stuff out there, and so that's for me just fear of rejection. So I just continue to just put myself in really uncomfortable situations where it's possible I can be rejected.
I think for me, I don't know, I've told anybody here this before. I've worked with quite a few of you for almost 2 years now. And I think for me, I was in 3 very dysfunctional situations, either the leader or in a matter of about 6 or 7 years. In fact, right before I came here, I left the 3rd dysfunctional kind of organizational structure leader. You know, some it was more the leader was dysfunctional, some it was the organization was dysfunctional. And that's when I really started doing some self-evaluating. Because if this happens 2 or 3 times in a row, okay, maybe it's not the setting that you're in that's the problem. Maybe there's something a little more to it. So, and that's when I was first introduced to Keep, Start, Stop. I had a coach, and he contacted a bunch of people that I work with my permission. He contacted a bunch of people I used to work with, contacted people who were friends, and said, what does Mike need to do? And it was great to have him do it, because then they weren't worried about, he's never going to know what I said, so I'm going to say whatever. In fact, there's a couple people here today that were involved in that process 5, 6, 7 years ago. And, maybe that long ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And so for me, having gone through those situations, even though I am a very passionate, driven, intense in my work, and somewhat, Sarah was right. When we stood in our kitchen, she said to me, Mike, there's a part of you that's dying, and I don't know if you'll ever be able to get it back. What she saw was that I was losing my passion for work that I love. And so for me, that's when I rewrote my personal plan. And really, I mean, no joke, I'm not just saying that because we're talking about today. Really, the personal plan has become the bookends or the framework for me that keeps me on track, particularly in those very uncomfortable situations. I think, Dennis says he keeps putting himself out there and uncomfortable or telling, that's just where we all live. We live in those moments of discomfort. And so for me, I don't have to look for them or put myself into them. They're just there. And so I've got to have some things in place in my personal plan and in my business vision that keep me on